Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. I'm so glad you could join me today. I have a fun little card for you from the new suite that's available just this month, and it's called Eden's Garden, and it is just beautiful. And I made a card that says sending hugs, and that could be for your birthday, it could be for just about anything. And I'm really pleased with the way it came out. So let's just get started. Okay, here is my card. By the way, I continue to get absolutely amazing comments and support and prayers and comfort from so many of you out there. I have to tell you that it's just remarkable. I am always stunned. I tell people in my family or that people that don't know about what I do about the kind of support and the messages that I've received, so many, and they're astonished. And you know, the more I think about it, the more I'm not. You know, this is such a wonderful community, continues to show support for me and what I do and for my situation. It's just wonderful. Thank you again so much. This little card is from a suite that has just become available and is going to be available I think just the month of November. This is the stamp set. It's called Eden's Garden. It's got some beautiful sentiments. Dear friend, how are you? Sending hugs. Let's celebrate everything. This one I love. My heart is tied to yours. Tug if you need anything. And then it says hello there. And then it's got this pretty kind of ephemeral stamp that's leaves and berries and flower, and then more leaves here with just different shapes. Very, very pretty. And the die set, I don't even have mine on a card yet. This is the die set, and it's this amazing outside wreath, this small inside wreath, this bunch of leaves, this, which is, I used mine to go across the bottom of one of my of the inside of the card, and this can be a banner that allows you to cut a banner, say out of Evening Evergreen. The colors in this are Evening Evergreen and Soft Succulent, and then do another smaller piece in here, or you could cut this in half and make it real short depending on what you were doing. Anyway, you can have more of these leaves sticking out over a sentiment. I used this die, and this big die, and for my sentiment I used sending hugs. Let me show you what it takes to make this card. I used a basic white base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. Then there's two different papers that come with this set. This one, which is called Evergreen Cotton paper, is what it is. It's 12 by 12, and it's thin paper that's almost like tissue, but more substantial than tissue. And there's a bunch of pieces here in the Soft Succulent, and then a bunch of pieces in the Evening Evergreen. And in mine today, I used this Evening Evergreen cotton paper, and then there's specialty designer series paper, which is also gorgeous, and that paper is this. And you can see there's some of that cotton paper that I used on my card. Then there is this paper. I used this one, and this one. And they all have, now this has kind of almost like a wax paper backing on it. but these are double-sided, and they're foiled in gold, just beautiful. And they've got subtle patterns on the back, so it coordinates with white, Evening Evergreen, and Soft Succulent. This appears to be a slightly different color, but maybe it's not. When I put this up against this Evening Evergreen, it's pretty close. Anyway, there's this pattern, and it's got kind of a herringbone on the back. This one, which I just showed you. Then there's two others. This one has kind of a softer green background, and then this one has a white background, as does this one. And this one's got little tiny foil dots on it, and then it's got kind of a watercolor wash on the back. This white one with the foiled leaves has a diagonal pattern, and this one has a light soft succulent background, and then it's got this pretty speckled pattern on the back. And I think, yep, I think that is all of the papers. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. So I used the following to make my card. I have a piece of this cotton paper that is 4 by 5 1/4, and we're going to put that on the front of this card. Then I have a piece, and this paper is a little heavier than some of our designer series paper. It's got a pretty substantial feel on it. This one, I used this piece, I cut 4 by 5 1/4, and this piece 4 by 5 1/4. Then I used a piece of soft succulent for the inside that is also cut 4 by 5 1/4. And then you need a little piece of white. I don't know where mine's gotten to, but you need a little scrap of white for your sentiment here. And then I use the light soft succulent, what's it called? Open weave ribbon on mine. And then it also has these beautiful embellishments. These are the gems, and they are two different shapes. These are like regular rhinestone shapes, and they're iridescent green, and then they've got some red in them. And then these are these oval shapes, and they're also iridescent. They've got a little bit of the red, but not near as much as this piece up here. And very, very pretty. The other thing I did use my Stitch So Sweetly dies, and I'll show you. I cut this piece of paper out of the inside of this one, and then I used the second and third smallest of the scallop dies to do my sentiment. Okay, so let's get going here. So what I did was I cut out of these two pieces of paper this die. So and you can see this is 4 by 5 1/4, and it just fits to cut that out. Then you're left with a pretty good sized piece in the center. I saved all of mine because I figured that at some point I will use them, and they end up coming out like this. There's the lighter one and the darker one, and then I used my die from the Stitch So Sweetly in this piece to get the outline for my backing for my sentiment out of the darker paper. So to save a little bit of time, I've already run my die pieces. So out of these two pieces of paper, I came away with these die cuts. So we have the lighter one. So in order to save some time, I've already done my die cutting. Now, what you need is this die, this wreath die here, cut out of this piece of paper, and this is 4 by 5 1/4. And I misspoke earlier. This is just a piece that I had. You really only need this small piece out of the paper, so you can use a smaller piece just big enough to cut that die using the Stitch So Sweetly dies. The very first thing we're going to do is adhere this piece to the front of our card base. And I have my pieces here. Here is my light piece, and I have cut my sentiment backing as well. So first we're going to adhere this to this base. And what I found is, because this is almost like a wax paper base on here, this doesn't, the glue doesn't stick directly to it, but it sticks once the glue is down. So what I did was I used my seal, and you'll see I came in a good 1/2 inch on my card base here to get my my glue set down. And then I put my piece of paper centered here on my card front. And this paper is fairly delicate, but it's so pretty. So there we go. There's that piece. Then I have this wreath that is going to go centered on this this piece of paper here. So what I did to do mine is I used my silicone mat and I used my dot runner. You can do the sponging with the Tombow. You can cut this out of the paper that's got the sticker back. You can just put Tombow on the back of it. You can use seal on this. For me, I find that using just the simple dot runner on this and getting all of the pieces covered seems to work reasonably well. Okay, so there is my piece all ready to go. And I'm going to push some of these things out of the way here. And what I'm going to do is center this wreath on this piece of cotton paper. And there we go. Now, you can use your gum eraser if you've got any glue in the webbing and around the edges. And I like to do mine right after I put down my paper so that I get the chance to pick up any little pieces that might still be in there. All right, my wreath is down and I'm pretty happy with that. Next, we're going to take my piece that's been die cut here, and we are going to take our piece of scrap white and our Evening Evergreen ink. Well, I'm so sorry. I appear to have lost a little bit of video, but what I have done is put the Sending Hugs stamp from the stamp set here on this little piece of scrap white, and then this is a die cut piece using the Stitch So Sweetly dies. So where I am is getting ready to add some dimensionals to the back of this piece of DSP. And then my Sending Hugs, I need to just add a little bit of snail to the back of it to hold it in place. And I stamped my Sending Hugs way over to this side because I wanted to do something just a little different with this ribbon. So once I've got it on there, then I can just take off these backs and go ahead and add this sentiment to the front of my card. So I'm going to center that here, and get that done. And then take a length of this ribbon, and hopefully I've left myself some room here to put my ribbon in and tie my bow. And what I'm going to do is encourage it this way a bit. And in order to do that, I need a pretty good size piece of ribbon. I'm going to cut about 15 inches just to make absolutely sure that I've got enough. And that's maybe more than I need. But what I want to do is tie this ribbon in a small knot around the sentiment here, like this, and then go ahead and tie my bow onto this piece. And that piece of ribbon was 15 inches, and it looks like it's maybe a little bit long, but not by much. I would say probably, at least 13 inches would be something that you'd want to do in order to have that ease of tying. So I'm going to trim down my tails here on my ribbon. There we go. And what I'm going to do is use some glue dots. Put glue dots underneath that ribbon to hold it in place away from my sentiment. So I'm going to pull it over, and if you're real careful where you put your dimensionals, this is a little bit easier. I wasn't paying real close attention, but I'm going to stick a glue dot underneath that ribbon and encourage that over to this side, and then another one, and encourage this one over again to the side here. Now then, I'm going to add another glue dot underneath this loop right down in here to capture the tail and that loop, so that I'm positive about where that's going to go. And this tail is maybe a little bit long. But there we go. We've got a pretty little bow on there. Now I'm going to take those embellishments that come with this set, and I added them at an angle around the edge of this card, and we might just go ahead and add one here on our sentiment. I think odd numbers are better, and so I'm just going to take 4 of these and put them around the edges of my card here at kind of an angle. They're so pretty, and they really do make the card feel finished. So there we go. We've got those 4 on the edges and 1 right here in the center. And this bow is actually better than the bow on my prototype, which is kind of loosey-goosey here. And what I'm probably going to have to do is go in with some glue dots on this one and encourage it down a little bit, and that will fix that. Things like that make me crazy. So I'll go in and fix that one. All right, now to the inside. And what I have done is I took my piece of Soft Succulent that I'm going to use for the inside. That is 4 by 5 1/4. And I have used a couple of the dies for this set. I set this die down on this edge of the card so that these little round pieces here just go right to the edge of the card. And I used a little bit of washi tape to hold that in place. And then I also took this little leaf die and I put it up here in the corner, and I ran it through just like that. And what I got when I was done was this piece. So I now have my leaf piece cut out of here, and here it is. And what I'm going to do is add a little bit of dimensionals, mini dimensionals, and some that have been cut in half. I've got a couple of them that I cut in half to put on some of these leaves. There we go. All right, so what I'm going to do first is add some snail around this card here, and I'm going to add quite a bit around this leaf because I want that to sit down pretty well. And I'm going to also add quite a bit of snail across this cutout on the bottom and right along those edges. All right, then I'm going to set this in place on the inside of my card so that it's got a bit of margin on all four sides that matches. And then we've got this pretty little cutout down below. Now then, this piece can go right back here in place, and you could offset it a little if you wanted, but to go ahead and give that some dimension there and let the white be peeking through. And that is the decoration I put on the inside, with one exception. I did cut a piece of this darker paper, and I cut this at 5/8 by 5 1/4, so that it would fit along here. And as I look at it, I really think I want that to be quite a bit thinner. So I'm going to grab my trimmer here, and I'm going to take a 1/4 inch off, so I end up with a piece that is only 3/8 of an inch wide, and then I have a 1/4 inch piece, and we'll see which one looks better. There's an indentation the way the die works here, and I'm very interested in seeing that covered. So maybe this 3/8 of an inch piece would be better there than the 1/4 inch. Well, you know, I like the 1/4 inch better. So it also has a stitching edge, so you can raise it up so that the 1/4 inch, as I looked at this one, that big old piece of paper there just looks kind of clunky, I think. So I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to set it just above the stitching and come all the way across the card and put that in place. It's a little bit long. I'm going to snip that off. There we go. All right. So now that's just a 1/4 of an inch going across there, and I like the way that looks a lot better. So that is it. That is my project for the day. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, well, I'd love to be your demonstrator. Or you could join my team. It's always a good time to join Stampin' Up! I have a wonderful team. They do a fabulous job, and we have a lot of fun. And people's skills are building, and we have people under me now that have downlines of their own, and that's been great fun to watch everybody grow as a demonstrator. And I have plenty of folks on my team that are hobby demonstrators too and have no interest in having a team or doing any of those other things, but they participate in the trainings and they participate in the swaps and some of those kinds of things, and so enjoy, I think, being on the team. And so my number and email is always listed below the video, so I'd be happy to talk to you about it anytime. So that's it. Let's see. We are into November. I cannot believe we're already into November. I'll have a new host code up on my blog, and the prize draw for the month of November, I'm going to do the same thing, $60 shopping spree on me, so that if you win the prize, then you get exactly what you want. And you get yourself in the drawing by putting an order of any size on my store, lbedinger.stampinup.net, and you can get to it through my blog, www.inkandingenuity.com. So again, thanks for stopping by, and I'll be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Bye.